controversial issue is how much of our behaviour is determined by our genetic makeup. And I think people have difficulty thinking about this because it's a question of free will. If we're determined, everything we do, by what our genes are, then what control do we have over what we are and how we behave? And this is a very important question, and frankly we don't really have the proper answers to it.
But while scientists struggle for answers, the questions raised by new genetic discoveries are already beginning to have an impact. This is death row. Each one of these cells contains a convicted murderer. But for one prisoner, an extraordinary claim is being made. A claim which, if accepted, would alter the way we look at crime. That prisoner is Tony Mobley. He admits to murder, but his defense attorney claims that Mobley couldn't stop himself, that his impulsive, violent crime was the result of his innate biochemistry.
There are individuals who are destined to become criminals, violent criminals, predators, the serial criminals, the Ted Bundys, the Dahmers.
In 1991, defense attorney Dan Summer began work on the Tony Mobley murder case. A case that would eventually make American legal history.
Tony was on his way to his father's house and saw the pizza parlor and decided, sort of spur on the moment, to rob the place. Tony went into the pizza parlor and encountered John Collins, pulled a gun out, pointed it at John, and demanded the proceeds from the cash register. At that point, Tony ordered John to turn around and face the wall. He raised the gun up and squeezed the trigger. The bullet struck John in the back of the head and killed him instantly.
Mobley was soon caught and confessed to the crime. Facing an almost certain death penalty, Dan Summer began digging in Mobley's past to try and uncover reasons for an apparently spontaneous murder.
If you look at Tony's life, it's clear that from a very early age, he was stealing, lying, cheating, getting kicked out of school, stealing cars, things of that nature. And that manifested itself at such an early age and was so persistent that there were some forces in his life that were compelling him, if you will, to engage in that type of behavior.
Tony Mobley came from a family of risk-taking, wealthy entrepreneurs. But as Summer began digging into the family tree, he unearthed ancestors who seemed to have channeled their energies into darker areas, from rape to robbery and murder. And as the case went to court, evidence was mounting from laboratories around the world linking particular genes with impulsive, aggressive behavior. So when the trial began, Summer and his team of defense lawyers decided to attempt a legal first. They asked the court to allow Mobley's genes to be part of his defense.
This country and our law is founded on the notion that people choose between good and evil. We were raising the possibility that a lot of what people do in life isn't a result of free will or free choice, but actually something that's predetermined at the moment of conception. And that raised a lot of eyebrows.
The judge refused to let Mobley be tested and threw out the genetic defense. Mobley is now awaiting execution. We will never know whether Mobley's genes influenced his actions, but the issues raised by these sorts of cases will not go away.
We may well be able to predict whether somebody will become aggressive or not later in life. that sort of knowledge is going to take some handling. We're going to have to think about its effects on how we deal with such a child, and indeed how we cope with such a child if he misbehaves or even ends up in the courts.
So where will this research lead? Will it lead to a world where we lock up children solely on the basis that they are impulsive and might commit a crime? Or because some tests suggest that they are genetically loaded towards violence? The idea that we will ever be able to make accurate enough predictions to justify locking up children is pure science fiction. But recognizing that some children are more at risk than others might encourage society to help them before it is too late.
It could be that we'll be able to predict that a child is more likely to be aggressive, let's say, and if so, perhaps we should take particular care with aspects of their upbringing to try and prevent that aggression getting out of control. It just could be that being forewarned of a problem will allow parents and society to deal with that problem, perhaps reduce it from becoming a major issue in the future.